The Who's down in Whoville like Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not, because it was the reason he was orphaned and left for dead. Hi, I'm Joshua, and today we're going to ruin How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every year, my family and I rewatch the 2018 remake of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, starring famed dragon Benedict Cumberbatch. And on this most recent rewatch, I noticed something. There's a scene at the beginning of the film where the Grinch is getting ready for the day, and as he's getting ready, he puts on pants. That's good. Nothing unusual about that. Probably better that he wears pants than not, both for my mental state and for the age rating of the movie. But as he's putting on his pants, something becomes apparent. These pants are a perfect match for his fur. They are identical. And so are the shoes on the rack next to him. And something occurred to me. Where did he get the fur? I mean, it's perfect. You can't tell that he's wearing clothes when he's wearing them. So how did he get perfectly matching Grinch fur? At first I thought maybe he sheds in the summer. He sheds his fur, but it would take years to collect that much fur from shedding. And he has, maybe a dozen pairs of pants and shoes. So, that would be the work of a lifetime to shed that much fur, to collect that much fur, and then to turn it into some kind of clothing. Of course, it could be synthetic, right? But I don't think so. We see a lot of fur clothing and synthetic furs and stuff throughout Whoville. And while it seems to be pretty well established that they dye fur on the regular there, either the Grinch goes as far as to buy his hair dye for himself. It's also never quite right. Most of the fur we see in Whoville is just a little off. The texture's off, even if the color is right. Well, except for a few Whos, but we'll get to that later. So if it's not synthetic, and it's not shed fur, that really, in my mind, only leaves one option. That the Grinch is wearing Grinch fur pants collected from other Grinches. Like you would collect the fur of a fox or a mink to make a coat. Sure, I guess the Grinch could have killed his family and skinned them, but that seems very unlikely. Certainly considering that we see him in the orphanage in a flashback at the age of 8 or 10 years old. And it seems even if the Grinch is the kind of guy who would skin his family, it seems pretty unlikely that he would be able to at that age, or younger than that. So if it wasn't the Grinch, who did it? How did the Grinches get skinned? And for that matter, where are the rest of the Grinches? What happened to them? Are they extinct, or did they all leave? Who could have killed? Who? The Who's. I've got it. It's all right here. The Who's killed and skinned the Grinches, using their corpses to fuel their clothing industry. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you might be thinking. What? That's crazy. No, I agree. That is crazy. And it's crazy that the people at Illumination Animation Studios thought up something so twisted and dark. I don't know what's wrong with them. I certainly could never have that dark of an imagination. But they do, and I'm just here to tell you about that. There is evidence planted throughout the film, scattered as seeds among the soil. So, let's start with Exhibit C, Mount Crumpet, or would be Exhibit M. Exhibit M, Exhibit MC, Mount Crumpet, Masters of Ceremony. Mount Crumpet is huge. The interior is certainly large enough to house at least 20 or so people. The dining room is just one example, but the entire space is enormous. It spans huge area, and it's a little bit much. It's a little bit much for a Grinch and a doll. But what if it wasn't built for one Grinch and one doll? Maybe it was built for a bunch of Grinches and a bunch of dogs. You see, Mount Crumpet is also too large, far too large, to have been hollowed out by one Grinch. Even the Grinch, with all of his ingenuity and engineering and stuff that he does in this film, it's nigh on impossible. Even if he's been doing it, not working nonstop at hollowing out this cavern since he was 8 years old. It's impossible without help. And it's my belief that Mount Crumpet is less of a home and more of an ancient fortress. An ancient Grinch fortress to protect against the Who's. A sort of Grinch's Helm's Deep, if you will. And the reason I believe this is the defense systems. We know of at least one massive catapult, which the Grinch tried to use to destroy their Christmas tree, but which you could just as easily see being used to destroy buildings and military infrastructure in Whoville. It's sitting right on Mount Crumpet, aimed right at Whoville. And the Grinch uses a map to find it. Right now, most people, I think, assume, including myself, that the Grinch probably just built it. But why would he need a map? Why would the Grinch need a map to find something that he built? Is he really that forgetful? There's no evidence that he's forgetful anywhere else in the film. So it must have been built by someone else. And who else but his ancestors, but the ancient Grinches of old? Now, that still leaves us with two questions. Why were the Who's hunting the Grinches? And why did they stop? Well, the first is much easier to answer than the second. The Who's hunted the Grinch for clothing. It hunted the Grinches for clothing. For fur pants and shoes and scarves. Not only do we see in several places throughout Whoville, there's characters wearing scarves that very well could be Grinch fur scarves or shirts, you name it. But also we see perhaps some of the motivation. I believe there's two reasons why they used Grinch fur specifically. Firstly, it seems to have incredible insulating properties. The Grinch goes out in a blizzard for what seems to be hours, wearing nothing but Grinch fur shoes and Grinch fur pants and a scarf. The rest of his body is just one layer of natural Grinch fur, and he's fine. He's cold, but he's not dead like he should be. And it's my belief that this is because the Grinch fur has incredible insulating properties. Now, with those insulating properties, those would be incredibly valuable in a winter Arctic environment that the Who's live in. We don't know how warm Whoville is in the summer, but it's very possible, given the environment, that they may not really get that warm any time of year. And having something as insulating and as powerful as Grinch fur could have been a literal lifesaver to early Whos. Additionally, the Whos have one defining characteristic. They are obsessed with Christmas. And their obsession, if you ask me, could lead them to kill. Most of the Whos we see, I have no doubt believing, would kill for Christmas. And what's more Christmassy than the color green? I rest my case. The Whos killed the Grinches and skinned them and took their fur and made clothing out of it for Christmas green insulating fabric. Now, our other question is what happened to the Grinches? Where did they go? Well, they were most likely hunted to extinction, of course, as we know. But it's my belief that they stopped hunting them before they were extinct. And this is how we get the Grinch. Because, of course, the Grinch, the fact that the Grinch is there means that there must have been at least two Grinches before him. Now, they stopped hunting the Grinches, I believe. The Whos stopped hunting the Grinches. Why? Why would they do that? The Whos love hunting Grinches. They love that fur. I believe there's two possibilities. The first is just a plain, simple moral outcry. People or Whos realized, hey, this is really messed up. We shouldn't do this. And they came to their senses and banned it, outlawed hunting Grinches. The other option is that they realized more cynically that they had hunted the Grinches to near extinction, and if they didn't stop, there was no chance that they would recover their numbers. Of course, even with the amount of hunting they had done, they were still unable to recover their numbers, clearly, as the Grinches will, to our knowledge, go extinct after the death of the Grinch. Which isn't that far off. The Grinch in this movie is stated to be 53 years old, at least. He says, I've put up with this for 53 years. That could mean that he is 53 years old, or it could mean that he has dealt with the Whos and Christmas that he hates for 53 years, putting him at more 61-ish, 61 to 63, assuming he's referring back to his year or so in the orphanage. Now, the Grinches were extinct. They were hunted by the Whos. The Whos stopped hunting them. My guess is there's probably between 20, probably about 20 Grinches left. That's my thought. Just based on the number of chairs and stuff in the dining room, it could be greater or less than that. But about 20 Grinches left, or at least 20 Grinches that decide to stay in the area. They all go or stay at Mount Crumpet. Then, over the course of gradual population decline, it could be from disease, or of course there's just not enough Grinches to repopulate, to rebuild that population. It's just not possible. And so, with that, they go extinct, or gradually, over the course of a number of years, their numbers dwindle more and more and more. The last Grinch baby is born, that being the Grinch, and his parents, when they realize they aren't going to survive, send him to the Who orphanage in the hopes of some kind of a life for him. Then, of course, this also explains why in Whoville, a place that seems like everyone is pretty much kind and loving and caring, although there are questions about their social programs and things like that are a bit suspect, it seems pretty idealistic. So why was the Grinch mistreated in the orphanage? Why was he neglected and ignored? Well, it could be that Grinch prejudice at the time was still running strong. The older generation was still in power, and they were unwilling to love the Grinch. to be kind to him, to treat him as anything other than an animal. And then, of course, the Grinch ran away, finding Mount Crumpet, the home of his ancestors, and making his home there, taking refuge and living there. It's hard to say why the Grinch wears rich fur clothes. I mean, could be any number of reasons. Maybe it's to honor his ancestors. Maybe it's to prevent booze from wearing them. It seems likely that he knows. He knows all this happened. In his library, their extensive library at Mount Crumpet, I can't imagine there isn't some kind of journal or chronicles or history books of this from his people. With that, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. See you next time.